Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brumakian podcast, an episodic review series where I can review anything but not everything. That includes giant monster movies, anime, and video games. This week, Dr. Frankenstein loses his greatest creation in Japan. The end results are interesting. This week, as Frankenstein conquers the world. Like King Kong, Toho was interested in the Frankenstein character. For those who don't know, the Frankenstein character actually made its debut over 100 years earlier in 1818 in Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus as it was known. Since then, it has been portrayed in a stage play, many movies in 1910 to 1920, and famously in the 1931 movie Frankenstein by Universal Pictures, and that was during the Great Depression. During said depression, it spawned many sequels like The Bride and Son of Frankenstein that came out in 1935 and 1939 respectively, The Ghost and House of Frankenstein that came out in 1942 and 1945 respectively, and so on and so forth. He made multiple appearances in other movies and media over the coming decades. One of those movies is this one. In 1961, producer Tomoyuki Tanaka had commissioned a project called Frankenstein vs. the Human Vapor, acting as a sequel to The Human Vapor, another Ishiro Honda film. However, one movie changed a lot of the plans. King Kong vs. Prometheus, soon to be King Kong vs. Godzilla, was purchased from John Beck, who had stolen the concept from the legendary stop-motion animator Willis O'Brien. Watch episode 6 to find out how that happened. Toho, influenced by the script, planned a Frankenstein vs. Godzilla, believe it or not, as a follow-up to King Kong vs. Godzilla. Takashi Kimura, was the writer for the project and came up with some ideas, while introducing a continuity error. Unfortunately, Toho didn't like the idea, so they dropped it in favor of Mothra vs. Godzilla the following year. But in 1965, the idea was brought back and co-produced by Henry G. Saperstein, remember him, and his film company, which was named after him. Godzilla was replaced by a new monster named Baragon, and an American actor would be playing one of the major roles, and his name was Nick Adams. And since Haruo Nakajima was busy handling Baragon, Koji Furuhata, I hope I said that right, was going to play the role of Frankenstein. At last, Frankenstein vs. Baragon, or Frankenstein Conquers the World, was released in Japan on August 8, 1965, and in the United States on July 8, 1966. And here is the plot synopsis, according to IMDb. During World War II, a human heart taken from a certain lab in Europe, Dr. Frankenstein's lab, of fucking course, is kept in a Japanese lab when it gets exposed to the radiation of the bombing of Hiroshima. The heart grows in size, mutates, and sprouts appendages, and eventually grows into a complete body and escapes. Later, a frail boy with a sudden physical deformity, a large head with a flat top, nice hairdo, buddy, is captured by scientists who refer to the boy as Frankenstein. The creature grows to the height of 20 feet, I'm not sure if it's actually 20 feet, the scaling must be off, and escapes, fights police and the army, sort of, and is practically indestructible. Who does that remind you of? Later, a reptilian monster named Baragon goes on a rampage. Eventually, the Frankenstein creature and the reptile face off in a terrible battle. That, or he's gonna keep it as a pet. Anyway, after the 2-minute break, I will give you my thoughts. See you then. Like always, it is not perfect, but it's close to it. I like that it is a change of pace from the usual stuff that we've gotten so used to, although I wish that some plot points were fleshed out more, and I wish that the alternate ending was shown instead of the one that we've got. The human characters are the standard good. Nick Adams obviously stands out, both good and bad. Good because his acting is above what you may expect. He actually brings so much effort in most of these scenes, but bad because he's the only one speaking English. That was pretty awkward in the Japanese version, but it is the complete opposite in the US version. Frankenstein, just like in the book and the 1931 film, is a tragic character, and I do like that he actually thinks and defends himself. Although I can't say the same for Baragon. While we do see him in a better role in the future, his potential here is completely disappointing to me. Not to mention that he looks fucking goofy as all hell. The special effects are far from goofy, however. The obvious blue screen is still an issue, but the rest of the effects are what you may expect from Tsuburaya and his team. Ofukube made me feel so many emotions listening to the music. I wish I can actually find the fucking soundtrack on YouTube, but god fucking damn you, corporate. Overall, Frankenstein Conquers the World, which is honestly a misleading title, is an enjoyable watch. It is one of those movies that you can get into real quickly. Sure, it's not perfect by any means, but at least it offers something new other than the regular that we've gotten used to. Speaking of that regular, we're finally heading back to the king himself, and I hear that he can breathe in space. Apparently. Until then, thank you all for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you want more of the Brumakian podcast, then subscribe to the channel. This has been Demetrius signing off, and have a good day.